The air inside the training hall felt thick and heavy, as if the walls themselves knew what was about to happen and did not want to be part of it. The alien students stood in a wide circle, their eyes fixed on the massive reinforced doors at the far end of the chamber. Some of them shifted their weight nervously, claws tapping against the floor scales. Twitching feathers ruffling a quiet hum of whispered voices moved through the crowd, each voice carrying the same unspoken question: who would be the first to die today? The beast was coming, and the beast had never shown. Mirsajalan Brooks stood among them, his hands relaxed at his sides, his breathing steady, while others fidgeted and glanced toward the exit. He simply watched the doors, his dark eyes calm, his posture loose, as though this was any other day in the Morvian Academy. He could feel the eyes of the other cadets on him, studying him, measuring him, deciding if the lone human in the class would last longer than a few seconds. The Morvian Academy was not a place for the weak. It was the most feared military school in the Orion sector, a place where failure often meant death, but Yalan had not come here to fail. The alien instructor, a tall, thin creature with skin like polished obsidian, walked to the center of the hall, his long robe dragging against the floor. The voice that came from his narrow mouth was sharp and cold. "This is your final examination. You will face the Morvian beast, survive for 10 minutes, and you will pass, fail, and you will be removed from the program permanently." Everyone knew what permanently meant here. No one ever failed and lived to talk about it. The instructor's black eyes swept across the line of students, stopping briefly on Yolan, then moved on. He raised one long arm and pointed at the door's release. Idolo rumble shook the floor at the reinforced doors, shuddered, and began to slide open. The sound of heavy locks disengaging echoed through the chamber. The air grew colder with every inch the doors opened. A dark smell rolled out like the breath of something that had been waiting for too long, something that had been hungry for too long. The whispers stopped. No. One moved. The opening was still dark. No shape could be seen inside. But the sound was their deep, slow breathing, the kind that came from lungs the size of barrels, the kind that made the hair on the back of the neck rise. Yalan felt it in his chest with each inhale and exhale. The silence in the room became painful, as if everyone was holding their breath together. Then it stepped into the light. The Morvian beast was larger than any predator Yalan had seen, even in the Academy's training simulations. Its shoulders rose higher than most cadets' heads. Its body was covered in black fur, streaked with deep red scars. Muscles shifted under the fur like thick ropes. Its head was broad, with a jaw that looked like it could crush bone with a single bite. Yellow eyes scanned the room, slow, deliberate, and intelligent. Each step it took was heavy enough to make the floor tremble. Some cadets flinched back, even though they had trained for this moment for years. The beast stopped just inside the doors. Its nostrils flared. It turned its head slowly toward the instructor, then toward the cadets, and finally toward Yalan. Those golden eyes locked on him and did not move. Jalen did not look away. He stood still, his heart steady, his hands open and relaxed. The beast's gaze was not just a predator's hunger. It was something else, something that studied him the way a scientist might study a new discovery. The other cadets glanced between the two, wondering why the beast was not moving, why it was not charging like it always did. The instructor's voice cut the silence. "Begin." The beast's ears twitched. Its body lowered slightly, as if preparing to spring. Yalan could see the power in its legs, the raw strength that could cross the hall. In a blink, claws dug into the floor. It exhaled a slow, hot breath that Yalan could feel from where he stood, but instead of leaping, it took one slow step forward, then another. The sound of its claws clicking against the floor echoed through the chamber. The other cadets tensed, waiting for the attack. The beast stopped a few feet from Yalan, its massive head lowering until its eyes were level with his. It inhaled again, the hot breath washing over him. Yalan could see every detail.
Ow.
Now the small scars along its snout, the faint line of a healed bite mark near its ear. The way its pupils narrowed slightly in the light, he felt no fear, only curiosity. The beast blinked slowly once, twice. Then, without warning, it sank to the ground with a heavy thud. The massive body curled slightly around Yolan, like a living wall. Its head rested on the floor near his boots. Eyes half closing, the sound of its breathing deepened into a slow, steady rhythm. The Morvian beast had fallen asleep at his feet for a long moment. No one moved, no one spoke. The silence was total. Then the whispering began again, sharp, quick bursts in a dozen. Alien tongues, disbelief, confusion, suspicion. Some cadets looked afraid, others looked angry. The instructor's black eyes narrowed, but even he did not step forward and stood still. The warmth of the beast's body, close enough to feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The Morvian beast, feared by every living cadet in the academy, had chosen not to attack, not to test, not to threaten it, had chosen to rest beside the human. As if they had known each other for years, somewhere in the crowd a voice spoke loud enough for all to hear. Cheater. Another voice followed. No, not a cheater, something worse. The words rippled through the cadets until the air was thick with muttering. And distrust eyes that had once been indifferent now stared at Yalin with suspicion and fear. The instructor finally spoke, his voice quiet but carrying through the hall. Cadet Brooks, remain where you are. The rest of you. Dismiss. The cadets hesitated, reluctant to turn their backs on the strange sight, but one by one they filed out until only Yalin, the beast, and the instructor remained. The tall alien stepped closer, each movement slow, deliberate. He studied Yalin as though trying to see something hidden under his skin. Then he glanced at the beast, and for the first time, Yalin saw uncertainty in the instructor's eyes. The Morvian beast does not choose, the instructor said finally. It kills or it ignores it. Does not choose, and yet here we live. Our Yalin said nothing. The beast shifted slightly in its sleep, a low rumble sounding from deep in its chest. Not aggression, but something else. Something almost like contentment. The instructor's gaze hardened. You will remain with it until we understand what has happened. Guards will be posted. You will not leave your quarters without permission. Yalin only nodded. The situation was strange, but his calm never wavered. He reached down slowly, letting his fingers brush the thick fur near the beast's neck. The creature did not wake, but its breathing changed slightly, as if acknowledging the touch. The instructor stepped back his robe, whispering against the floor. This is not overhuman. The doors closed behind him, leaving Yalin alone with the sleeping monster. The hall, now quiet, except for the slow, steady breath of the galaxy's most feared predator, curled at his feet. Silence in Jalen's quarters felt heavier than the air in the training hall had been. The beast lay stretched across most of the floor, its breathing slow and deep, its golden eyes closed, yet Yalin knew it was not truly asleep. It never was. He could feel it in the way its ears twitched every few seconds, and the way its claws flexed slightly against the smooth surface. As if testing for any shift in the room, the guards stationed outside his door were easy to hear their voices, low, but not low enough. The word human came up again and again, along with others. Cheater. Mind control. Unnatural. Hours passed, though time seemed to have no meaning in the academy. The room's lighting never changed, and the walls were the same dull metallic gray. No windows, no view, just the faint hum of the building around him. Yalin sat on the small bed, watching the beast. It had not moved since they returned, but its presence filled the entire space, making it feel smaller than it was. Footsteps approached the door. The guards' voices stopped. A mechanical click sounded, and the door slid open. The instructor entered, his black eyes unreadable. Behind him came 3 cadets. 2 were tall and lean, with the smooth silver skin of the Arvok species. The third was larger, a broad-shouldered alien with spines running from the crown of his head down to his back. His species, Yalin knew, was from the frozen world of Kryvar, and he also knew they enjoyed breaking bones for sport. The instructor motioned them inside. The door closed again. Yalin stayed where he was. The beast's eyes opened slowly, its head lifting slightly golden. Gaze scanning the newcomers. The Arvok's cadet to the left spoke first, his voice like ice cracking across a frozen lake. So this is the great human who can tame Morvian beast. His eyes narrowed. Or maybe you just used some dirty earth trick. Yalin did not replied. The Kryvar cadet stepped forward, his spines shifting like they were alive. You think you're special because it didn't kill you, he said, leaning closer. You think that means you belong here? The beast rumbled low in its chest, the sound vibrating through the floor. The Kryvar froze for a moment, his eyes flicking to the creature before he took another step. Yalin could feel the tension in the air like static before a storm. The instructor's voice cut through it enough his tone. Sharp but quiet, this is not the time for petty challenges. We are here to understand what happened. Nothing more, he turned to Yolan. Did you use any device, any hidden implant, any chemical from your homeworld? No. Yolan said simply, the Arvox to the right. Gave a humorless smile, then you admit. It was a coincidence that the most dangerous predator in this sector decided to nap at your feet instead of ripping you apart. Yolan met his gaze. Maybe it liked Mitha Krivar. It barked a short, harsh laugh. Liked you. These things don't like anything. They don't even like their own kind. The beast's head rose higher now, its eyes narrowing at the Krivar, its tail shifting. Across the floor like a heavy rope, Yolan didn't move, didn't speak, but he felt the heat of the beast's attention focus on the cadet in front of him. The instructor glanced at the beast, and for the first time, Yolan thought he saw something. Like unease in the alien sharp. Features enough questions for now. Leave him. The three cadets hesitated. Their eyes still on Yolan, but they turned and filed out one by one. The door closed behind them with a soft hiss. The beast lowered its head. Again, but its eyes stayed open, watching the door Yolan leaned back against. The wall. You don't like them either, do you? He said quietly. The beast blinked once slowly, as if that was an answer, though. Hours after that were filled with more whispers. Then before, when Yolan was escorted to the mess hall, the conversations around him stopped instantly. Every alien eye followed him, some with curiosity, some with open hostility. The long tables that were always crowded now had empty seats near him. The hiss of voices started again. As soon as he passed, words like danger and control and mind link floated in the air. One cadet, braver than the rest, stepped into his path. She was tall and thin, with 4 small black eyes and skin patterned and shifting. Stripes. Her voice was calm, but her gaze sharp. Why did it choose you, human? Yolan stopped walking. Maybe you should ask it. She tilted her head, almost smiling. It doesn't speak human, Yolan said. Maybe it does. She stepped aside, letting him pass, but her eyes stayed on him until he was gone back in his quarters. Yolan found the beast waiting near the door as if it had been listening for him when he entered it, moved closer, brushing its massive head lightly against his shoulder before settling. Again on the floor, he sat beside it, feeling the deep, steady rhythm of its breathing, the sound oddly comforting. Knew the questions and suspicion would not stop. They would grow every day until the Academy had an answer, and if they did not find one, they might decide the problem was easier to erase than to solve outside. His door footsteps passed the same ones over and over, a guard changing shift, another delivering food, another stopping just long enough to whisper to someone else. Yolan didn't need to hear the words to know they were about him. The beast's eyes followed the sound of every footstep, its ears twitching, its body tense, but it did not move from his side. Yolan wondered if it had been like this before, always watching, always guarding something or someone that night, if it could be called night in a place with no sky. Yolan lay on his bed, unable to sleep. The beast rested near the foot of the bed, its golden eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Deep in the building, a metallic clang echoed, then another, then the faint sound of voices raised in anger. The beast's head lifted instantly, its gaze locking on the door. Yolan sat up, listening. The sounds faded, but the unease in the air did not win. Morning came, or what passed for morning. The instructor returned, his expression darker than before. There have been complaints, he said. Some say you are dangerous. Others say you are a threat to the Academy's safety. Jalen's voice was steady. What do you say? The instructor hesitated. I say, I do not know yet, but I will find out, and until then you will be watched always. He glanced at the beast, his black eyes narrowing. If it tries to harm anyone, I will end it. And youth beast rumbled low. Its golden eyes locked on the instructor, but Yolan placed a hand against its neck. The deep sound faded slowly. The instructor turned and left the door sliding shut behind him, leaving the human and the beast alone once more, the quiet pressing in like a living thing. Yolan leaned back against the wall, his eyes on the door. He knew the days ahead bring more questions, more suspicion, and maybe worse. But for now, the beast was here, beside him, and for some reason that made him feel ready for whatever came next. The days after the test passed slowly, but never quietly. Even when the corridors outside his quarters were empty, Yolan could still feel the weight of unseen eyes. The Morvian Academy was a place where silence meant someone was watching from behind walls or through hidden sensors, and he knew, without doubt, that every moment he and the beast spent together was being recorded and studied. The beast rarely left his side if Yalan moved to the bed. It followed if he went too. The small table, it sat near the chair, its head resting on the floor, muscles coiled like it could spring at any moment. At first he thought it might be guarding the door, watching for danger, but soon he realized it was watching him, not in the way a predator studies prey, but in the way someone studies a puzzle in. The mess hall, the whispers had grown louder when the guards escorted him through the narrow corridors to eat. Every conversation stopped. Forks and claws froze mid-bite, then eyes would track him across the room when he sat. The empty space around him seemed to grow. The cadets never said a word directly, but he could feel the question in every stare. Why had the beast chosen the human? One evening the instructor came to his quarters with two alien scientists, their long, thin limbs moving with an unnatural precision, their pale eyes blinking too slowly. They carried strange devices that hummed and flickered with colored lights. They asked Yalan to stand still while they scanned him for hidden implants, for chemical traces, for signs of neural interference. They even shined light into his eyes and took samples of his skin. The beast did not like this each time. The scientist moved closer, its ears flattened, and a low growl rumbled in its chest. One of the scientists tried to step around it, but the beast shifted its weight, blocking the path. Yalan placed a hand on its neck and spoke softly. It did not understand the words, but it seemed to understand the tone. The growl faded, though its golden eyes stayed locked on the strangers. When the scans were done, the instructor asked the scientists for their results. Both shook their heads. No hidden devices, no implants, no unusual signals from the human, they said. In their slow, deliberate voices, nothing that could explain the beast's behavior. The instructor did not look satisfied, but he dismissed them, leaving Yalan alone with the creature again that night. Yalan dreamed of dark forests and the sound of breathing behind him, the kind of sound that makes you run, even before you see what is chasing you. But when he turned in the dream, it was the beast not attacking, but walking beside him, as if they had been traveling together for years. When he woke, he found it lying closer than usual, its head resting against the side of the bed, its eyes open, watching him in the dim lighting. The following days, small things began to happen that made Yalan wonder if something deeper was going on. Sometimes when he was about to speak, the beast would lift its head and look at him as if it already knew what he was going to say. Once, when a tray of food slipped from his hands, the beast moved before the tray even began to fall, catching it with one massive claw and setting it down gently. It was as if it could sense his intentions before he acted. He began to test it without letting the guards or the watching eyes know. He would think about walking to the table without moving, and sometimes the beast would rise before he did. When he imagined turning toward the door, its gaze would shift in that direction as though it had heard a voice no one else could hear. The idea that they were somehow connected settled into his mind slowly but firmly. One afternoon, a group of cadets passed by the open training hall as Yalan was walking through with the beast at his side. One of them, a tall insectoid creature, clicked its mandibles and shouted, "The beast's loyalty will get you killed, human. It's only a matter of time before it remembers what it is." Yalan did not respond, but the beast stopped in its tracks, its golden eyes narrowing on the cadet. The insectoid froze mid-step, backing away without another word. Later that day, the instructor summoned him to the observation deck, a wide platform that overlooked the academy's main combat arena. The walls were made of transparent alloys strong enough to withstand explosions. In the arena below, the floor was already shifting, opening into jagged terrain dotted with glowing hazards. "Today you and the beast will fight together," the instructor said, his black eyes unreadable. "We will see if this bond is more than a trick." The test began with 3 simulated predators larger than any living creature in the academy. They were made of hard light and energy, but could hit and tear like real flesh. Their eyes glowed with artificial hunger. They moved fast, circling the human and beast. Yalan could feel the shift in the air beside him as the beast lowered itself to the ground, ready to strike. When the first predator leapt, the beast met it midair, claws flashing. The impact shook the ground. The second predator lunged for Yalan, but before it reached him, the beast was there, blocking the path. Their movements matched perfectly, without a single word or signal. Yalan found himself stepping where the beast opened space, striking when the beast drove an enemy into range. It was like fighting as one mind. The battle was over in minutes. The simulated predators dissolved into glowing dust, the arena silent, except for the sound of Jalen's breathing and the slow, steady rumble of the beast's chest in the observation deck above. Cadets and instructors whispered to each other there. Faces unreadable, some looked impressed, others looked alarmed. When they returned to his quarters that night, Yolan sat against the wall, the beast lying beside him, rested a hand on its thick fur, and felt the slow rhythm of its breath he could almost sense. It's something beneath that rhythm like a faint echo. In his own chest, as though some invisible thread had tied them together. He didn't know how or why, but he knew it was real, and he knew the academy was afraid of it outside in the hall. The guards shifted in their armor, whispering to each other about what they had seen, but their words were faint too. Now the only sound he noticed was the quiet breathing of the creature that everyone feared, and the quiet certainty that whatever this bond was, it was only the beginning. The summons came. Without warning, the door to Jalen's quarters sliding open to reveal the instructor standing in the hall, his black eyes sharper than usual behind him. 2 guards waited, their hands resting on the grips of their weapons. "Bring the beast," the instructor said. Yalan glanced at the massive creature beside him. It was already on its feet, ears forward, as if it had been expecting the call without a word. Yalan walked into the corridor, the beast following silently. They moved through the academy's winding metal halls, each turn taking them deeper until the air grew cooler and the faint rumble of heavy machinery could be felt through the floor. They reached the arena's preparation chamber, its walls lined with weapon racks and sealed crates. Yalan had been here before during training, but this time the air felt different, heavier. The guards stepped aside as the instructor keyed the door to the main arena open. The arena was vast, its floor shifting and groaning as heavy plates moved into place. Jagged spires of black stone rose from the ground, glowing fissures of molten light, splitting the surface in dangerous patterns. The walls curved high above them, forming a dome lined with transparent alloy. Through it, dozens of cadets and instructors watched from the safety of observation decks, their faces pressed close to the barrier, their voices a low hum of anticipation. And the beast stepped onto the uneven ground, the heat from the glowing fissures curling against his skin. The instructor's voice boomed from the speakers above. "This is not a simulation of skill, Cadet Brooks. This is a test of survival your bond with the Morvian beast has raised. Questions that must be answered before the Academy decides your fate. Survive the trial, and you may continue. Fail, and you will be removed permanently." The air shimmered ahead of him. 3 shapes flickered into existence. Towering creatures, made of hard light and energy, their forms monstrous, each with a different design. One with elongated limbs tipped with hooked blades, another with a massive head lined with teeth like glass knives, the third low and broad with spiked armor along its back, their glowing eyes fixed on Yolan and the beast with cold hunger. The moment the creatures solidified, the ground shook beneath. Their charge, the first one, moved with terrifying speed, blades sweeping through the air. But the beast was faster. It lunged forward, meeting the attack head-on, claws raking through the creatures. Glowing forms, sparks and shards of energy scattering across the arena. The second came from the side, aiming for Yolan, but he had already moved. The beast seemed to sense his steps, guiding him to safe ground before he could think about it. The low armored one tried to circle behind them. It spiked back, bristling as it prepared to slam forward. Yalan ducked under a swipe from the bladed creature and shouted without thinking. The beast responded, instantly leaping over him and crashing down onto the armored predator. The impact cracked the arena floor, the predator's form shattering into light before dissolving into nothingness. Our remaining 2 came at once, their movements perfectly timed, the bladed one keeping the beast engaged. While the massive-headed predator lunged for Yolan, he dove to the side, but it still came fast, teeth closing around empty air before slamming into the ground where he had been. The beast broke away from the other attacker and struck the predator in the side, claws tearing through its glowing body. The hard light flickered before bursting apart, leaving only the bladed creature standing. It circled them, its movement slower now, as if calculating the next strike. The beast lowered itself head forward, ears flat. Yolan felt his own muscles tighten, as though preparing for the same moment. The creature lunged again. The beast met it in a blur of movement. It's a sound of claws striking, energy filling the arena with bright flashes. Then the bladed predator dissolved like the others, leaving only silence and the sound of Jalen's breathing from the observation deck. The cadets and instructors stared down, some with wide eyes. Others with narrowed suspicion. Yalen looked up and met their gaze. But he saw no applause, no cheers, just whispers moving like a current through the crowd. The instructor's voice came again. This time quieter. You have passed for now. Return to your quarters. As they left the arena, Yalen felt the beast's shoulder brush lightly against his own, as if making sure he was still there in the corridors beyond the spectators. A smaller figure waited near the wall. It was one of the newer cadets, a thin, pale-skinned alien with wide, black eyes. He held a small recording device in his hands, and for a moment his gaze locked with Jalen's before he quickly turned and disappeared down another hallway. Back in his quarters, Yalen sat on the bed, the beast settling in front of the door like a living barrier. He could still hear the faint echo of the crowd's whispers in his mind. Some had looked at him with awe, others with clear fear. The academy had seen the bond between him and the beast in action, and instead of answers it seemed to have raised more questions. He wondered about the cadet with the recording device, who he had been sending it to, and why in a place like this where every action was watched and judged, secrets rarely stayed hidden for long, and whatever that recording showed was likely already in the hands of someone beyond the academy walls. Beast shifted its weight and lowered its head against the floor, its golden eyes half closed but not asleep. Jalan leaned forward, resting a hand on its thick fur. He could feel the strength beneath it, but also the strange quiet that had always been there, as though the creature knew something he didn't. The trial had proved they worked as one, but it had also shown the academy exactly what that meant, and Yalen was certain they would not leave it at that. The call came in the middle of what passed for night at the Morven Academy. The dim overhead lights casting the room in a dull gray. The beast was lying near the wall, eyes closed, but Yalen knew it was not sleeping. Its ears twitched when the door slid open. The instructor stood there with 2 armed guards, his expression darker than Lane had ever seen. "Come with me," he said. "Bring the beast." They walked through corridors Yalen had never been allowed to enter. Before, the air here was colder, the walls thicker, the floor humming with the deep vibration of powerful engines. The guards stayed close, their weapons held ready, though pointed at the ground. Yalen could feel the tension in their movements, the way their eyes never left the beast's massive form, and a long descent, in a long descent in a lift. The doors opened to a chamber so large it seemed to swallow the light. The far wall was made of transparent alloy, looking out into the deep void of space. Beyond it was the city-sized station of the Galactic Council, its surface glittering with lights. The instructor stepped aside as another figure approached, tall, thin, draped in ceremonial robes of shifting silver fabric, their face hidden behind a smooth mask. "The council summons you, human, and your creature." They boarded a shuttle that carried them across the void toward the station. Yalen sat with the beast at his side, feeling the quiet weight of what was coming. The station grew larger until it filled the view, its outer rings turning slowly around a massive central tower. When the shuttle docked, armed sentries in golden armor waited. They did not speak as they escorted Yalen and the beast into the council's inner halls. The chamber of the council was like nothing Yalen had seen before, a wide circular space lined with tiered seats, each occupied by a leader from a different world, shapes and colors that seemed almost unreal. Some floating, some coiled, some barely moving at all. The ceiling was so high, it vanished into shadow, a single beam of white light shining down on the center platform where Yalen now stood, the beast at his side, its golden eyes sweeping the chamber. The voice that spoke came from many mouths at once. Translated into a language Yalen could understand, "You have been called here because of an event without precedent. The Morvian beast, one of the most dangerous predators in the known sectors, has bonded with, record exists of such a thing. We require the creature to be surrendered for study and containment." Jalen stood still, his voice calm. Noah. Ripple of sound moved through the chamber, a mix of surprise and anger. The unified voice came again. "You refuse. We are the highest authority in this galaxy, and the beast you guard is a threat to that galaxy." Jalen glanced at the beast, its gaze locked on a section of the chamber where a cluster of council members sat. The creature's ears flattened slightly, its body tense. Yolan followed its gaze and saw one of the counselors leaning forward, their scaled hands curling around the edge of the desk, their eyes narrow and sharp as if recognizing the beast personally. One of the counselors rose, their voice separate from the others. "Let the human speak. Why does he refuse?" Yolan looked up, meeting their eyes. "Because you are not afraid of the beast. You are afraid of what it means if it chose me. You are afraid that the bond says something about humans, something you cannot control." Another wave of noise spread across the chamber. The masked figure who had met them at the academy stepped forward. "Enough. This meeting is not to debate human philosophy. It is to secure the safety of the galaxy, surrender the beast, or face the consequences," and placed a hand on the beast's neck, feeling the slow strength. "There, no," he said again, his voice firmer. This time the counselor with the scaled hands leaned back slowly, their expression unreadable, but Yolan could feel the tension in the air deepening. The masked figure turned away, speaking to the guards. "Take them back to the academy for now, but keep them under watch. They are not to leave without permission." They left the chamber. Yolan caught a movement in the upper tiers, a figure slipping out through a side door almost unnoticed, but not by the beast. Its head turned slightly, tracking them until they were gone. The shuttle ride back to the academy was silent, but Yolan could feel the weight of what had just happened. The council had shown its hand. They wanted the beast, but they wanted him too, and not for reasons they were willing to say openly. When they arrived at his quarters, the guards posted themselves outside the door, their presence heavier than before that night. The beast paced the room, its tail sweeping the floor, its golden eyes. Restless Yolan lay awake watching it, knowing that whatever had started in the training hall was now bigger than the academy, bigger than the Morvian beast. It was tangled in something political and dangerous, and if the council wanted them apart, then staying together might be the only thing keeping them alive. The next morning came without the usual academy chimes. Instead, a low, distant rumble rolled through the walls like thunder. Yolan sat up instantly, the beast already alert by the door, ears pricked forward. The guards outside shifted uneasily, one of them speaking into a cum that static swallowed before Yolan could hear. When the door finally slid open, it was not the instructor or any official. It was a thin Morvian student with dark, darting eyes who glanced both ways before slipping inside. Closing the door fast, he looked at the beast, then at Yolan, his voice a hurried whisper. "They know the truth about why it chose you. They cannot let it spread." Ilden stepped closer. "What truth?" The student shook his head. "Not here to many ears. They hear everything. But if you want answers, you must leave the academy tonight. There is someone in the lower levels who can tell youth." Beast moved forward, blocking the student slightly, its eyes hard. The boy didn't flinch. He only looked at it for a moment, then back to Yolan. "Hurry before they decide to take it by force." He left as quickly as he had. Comegelan paced for hours, his thoughts grinding against one another. The council, the strange scaled counselor, the students warning the beast watched him quietly, but there was an edge to its stillness, like a predator waiting for a signal. When night came, the guards outside shifted position. Yolan noticed the faint click of a shift change, and that was the moment he moved. The beast followed without sound, its heavy paws silent on the smooth floor. They slipped into an unused service corridor where the lights flickered faintly, the air cooler here smelling of metal and faint oil. The lower they went, the louder the distant hum of the academy's core grew. Found the lower levels empty except for a few maintenance drones, but Yolan felt eyes on him more than once. Shadows moved where there should be none. Finally, in a narrow chamber lit only by a single hanging lamp, a figure waited, wrapped in a long coat, their face hidden under a hood. Yolan stopped a few steps away. "You are the one with the beast." The voice was low and smooth. "And you are the one." It chose the figure. Stepped forward just enough for Yolan to see. Eyes the same golden shade as the beast's, but older, deeper. There is a reason for that choice. Wujilin's voice was steady. "Tell me, the Morvian beast is not just an animal," the figure said. "It is the last living guardian of a race long gone, a race that once fought the council and nearly won it. Can sense in others the same spirit, the same resistance that its creators had, and it bonds only to those it judges." Where Vigilant's chest tightened, so the council fears what it means if it bonds with a human. The hooded figure nodded slowly. If word spreads that a human carries the mark of the old guardians, others might see your kind as more than they want you to be. They cannot allow that, Jalen thought. Of the scaled counselor leaning forward in the chamber, and of the beast's constant attention toward them, they know he said they. Already know. The figure stepped closer, lowering their voice. Then, you must know this too. The beast will protect you. To its last breath. But there are those who can break the bond, kill it without killing you, and they will try soon. A sharp noise from the corridor cut through the air, boots pounding metal. The figure stepped back, vanishing into shadow as the far door slammed open, armed guards flooding in, their weapons raised. The beast growled, low and deep. Yalan raised his hands but did not step away from it. The lead guard's voice was cold. You are under order of the council for immediate transfer. You. Welcome now. Jalan did not move. The beast stepped in front of him, its massive body a wall of muscle and fur. The guards hesitated one step too long, and the lights above flickered hard. The whole level shuddered, an alarm blaring in deep warning tone. Something had hit the academy hard. The lead guard barked orders, but Yalan saw his chance. He and the beast slipped through a side hatch as the guards tried to stabilize their footing. The narrow passage beyond led upward, twisting until it opened into the academy's outer observation ring. From here, Yolan could see space in what had caused the alarm. A small dark ship was clamped to the academy's hull, its airlock forcing a connection. Figures in shadowy armor moving through the breach. They were not academy security, and they were not council. They moved with silent precision, weapons at the ready. Jalan crouched low, the beast beside him, watching the newcomers. They were coming in fast, headed straight for the central corridors, where the council's agents would be waiting. Whatever was happening was bigger than Yalan had guessed, but he knew one thing the beast's choice had put him in the center of it, and there would be no going back. The alarms did not stop. They screamed through the metal halls like a living thing, red warning lights flashing in every corridor. Yalan ran low and fast, the beast at his side, its fur brushing his arm. They passed shattered doors and overturned carts. The floor slick in places from ruptured coolant lines through the thick glass of the observation ring. Yolan saw the dark armored figures moving deeper into the academy, each one carrying compact rifles, their movements sharp and silent. They were not here for random destruction. They were here for someone or something, and Yalan could feel in his gut he was part of their target. The beast stopped suddenly, its head lifting, ears twitching, as if it heard something far away. It turned its gaze toward a side corridor dimly lit. Yalan followed its stare. There was no sound, but the pull was strong. They took that path, weaving through narrow maintenance ways until they reached a sealed hatch. Yalan hesitated, then placed his hand against the panel. It buzzed faintly, and to his surprise, the lock disengaged. The hatch slid open, revealing a chamber unlike any he had seen inside. The academy walls, it was round, the walls covered with markings carved deep into black stone, glowing faintly blue. In the center, a pillar of clear material held a pulsing sphere of gold light. The beast stepped forward, lowering its head. The golden light pulsed faster, and Yolan felt warmth in his chest. A deep, steady beat that was not his own. A voice spoke, not with sound, but directly in his mind. You are chosen as the Guardian's keeper. Your bond is the last key. Yalan stepped back, his breath quick. The beast looked at him, and in its eyes he understood without words. If he touched the sphere, it would bind them fully, their connection permanent, unbreakable. But it would also mark him forever. The council would never stop hunting him. The chamber trembled, dust falling from the ceiling, heavy boots clanging closer, armed figures spilling through the hatch, some in council armor, others in the dark armor, from the ship. For a moment, both groups froze, seeing each other. Then weapons came up, shouts filling the air in two languages. Jalen's pulse pounded. He was standing between two forces, ready to tear each other apart. A voice from the council's side yelled, "Give us the human and the beast. No harm will come to you." Yalan looked at them, saw only cold eyes. Then another voice from the dark-armored side, "They are the key to ending this war. Come with us, and you will be free." Jalen's mind spun. Two sides, both wanting him, neither speaking the full truth. The beast stood between them, tail low, muscles tight, waiting for his choice. Yalan looked back at the sphere, its light pulsing faster, like a heartbeat urging him. The chamber shook again, this time harder. cracks racing up the stone walls. Something deep in the academy, breaking apart shouts, turned to screams as a fissure split the floor. The council guards staggered the dark-armored fighters. Bracing against the walls, Yalin moved toward the sphere, the beast matching him. Step for step, one council guard lunged for him. The beast moved faster, knocking him aside. Yalin reached out, both hands touching the sphere. The gold light exploded around him, filling the chamber in a blinding wave. The sound vanished, replaced by a single deep tone that vibrated in his bones. He felt the bond lock into place, every thought, every breath in perfect sync with the beast. When the light faded, the fighters on both sides stared at him. The council guard who had spoken before looked pale, as if seeing something impossible. The dark-armored leader stepped back, lowering their weapon. "You've done it. The Guardian has chosen fully. The council can't take it now." The walls cracked again, chunks of stone falling, the golden sphere's light flowing into the beast until it burned with a soft glow. Yalin could feel its strength in his own muscles, its senses. In his mind they ran together through the collapsing corridors, the council shouts fading behind them, the dark-armored fighters moving in parallel, covering their retreat. A breach opened ahead, the view of open space, and the small ship waiting. Yalin didn't know who these new allies truly were, but he knew one thing: the beast had chosen him, and he had chosen the beast, and whatever war was coming, they would face it together. As the ship's hatch closed behind them, and the academy fell away into the black, Yalin felt the bond hum like a living star inside him. No matter where they went or who came for them, that bond would never break. Hand for the first time since arriving at the academy, Yalin smiled, not because he felt safe, but because he knew the fight was only beginning.